Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of The Big Bite. My name is Victor Wainwright and today we're doing steaks, y'all. Get your fork ready, open up wide, ain't no need to be dignified. Now today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to sous vide these steaks and sear them in a cast iron skillet. Now I know some of you guys are already asking, what the hell is a sous vide? Well, I'm going to show you. Follow along, it's easy. Oh yeah, just a little disclaimer y'all. I'm by no means a professional chef or cook. I'm an entertainer and a musician. But through a lot of hours standing behind my grill or behind my stove, and through a lot of hours of touring up and down the road watching YouTube, I've gained just a little bit of knowledge that I'm happy to share. Either way, I'm pretty confident that this steak is going to be the best steak you ever had in your whole life.
Alright, first things first, let's talk about what is sous vide. I know a lot of y'all are asking, what the heck is sous vide? Well, it's easier to understand than you think. Sous vide means cooking in a vacuum. That's right, a vacuum. Now don't let that scare you. I'll explain. You're sealing food in an airtight container and then bringing that food up gently to a precise temperature using circulated water. Still seem kind of crazy? Well, here's some tools that we might need. First, we need a water circulator. You can snag one of these at any department store nowadays. I have an Innova. I like to dial on it and it doesn't take up too much space. You can also find one on Amazon pretty quickly. Not a problem. You also need a container. I like to use a plastic food-safe container, but you can also just use a pot if that's what you have. I like to use this container because it has a lid built for this, and the water will evaporate some. So having a container with a lid is kind of important, I guess. Now you also need a vacuum sealer. You can get a vacuum sealer from Walmart, Target, or Amazon. Any sort of big store has these things. And man, these are just quality of life tools. Tools that'll make the job a little bit easier. And we know if they make the job easier, you'll be more likely to use them. Also, grab a couple of these bags like this here. We're talking about streamlining this whole process, y'all. I also like to use a rack, and I got this one off of Amazon. It's not required at all, but sometimes protein that you're cooking will kind of float or crowd together, and this will help keep it separate and down in the water. Last but not least, y'all, steaks. These are USDA, prime from our local butcher shop here in Memphis, Tennessee. USDA grades beef based on the intramuscular fat of the beef. And what I mean by that is, you see this marbling everywhere? These white spots? Fat is flavor, and fat will give you a better steak. Prime costs a lot more than choice. Thickness is also really important. We're going to be searing these steaks, and depending on how much you guys like a nice crust, well, that takes time, and we don't want to get it overdone. So I like steaks about 1.5 inches thick, just like these guys right here. We're also going to need some coarse salt, because we're about to get to seasoning these bad boys. Don't be afraid of seasoning these guys with salt. Be generous with the salt. This is a big old piece of meat. Be generous with the seasonings. It needs it. Also, get yourself some cracked pepper. Some fresh cracked pepper is best.
Get the fuck out of here,
Alright, you also want to go ahead and put on a little light garlic powder. Don't go crazy with the garlic powder, but just enough. Kind of until it looks like this right here. And now you guessed it, it's time to do the other side. Go ahead and flip them over. And you know what? I'll go ahead and fast forward through this next part. Alright friends, now don't forget to go ahead and get the sides of the steak as well. Since we seasoned our board, we'll take advantage of that and just rub the steak here around the board until we got the sides nice and evenly coated. Alright, now what we have are two well-seasoned steaks. Perfectly seasoned, if I do say so myself. We need to go ahead and get them in the bag, which is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to speed this along. But once they're in there, this is how it should look, just about like this. Now we need to seal it up. Get your steaks and your vacuum sealer out and get them kind of side by side and ready. And this is a pretty easy process too, y'all. I'm going to speed this up as well some. And now these guys are ready. Go ahead and get them in the rack, however you see fit, however fits best. And go ahead and get your water ready too, because we're about to drop them in. Ooh boy, these things are ready to cook. Let's go ahead and get the lid on the container and go ahead and get the water circulator in there too. Set it to 129 degrees or whatever your preferred doneness is. That's mine. But whatever you want your steaks to be cooked to, that's what they will be. Carbon steel or cast iron? I'm going with cast iron, baby.
All right, y'all, the steaks are done. It's been 2 whole hours and they are cooked to a perfect 129 degrees, right to the way I like them. Now, when we pull them out of here, they're not going to look like a whole lot. But once we get them in that cast iron and get that crust on them, whoo, they are going to look good. And they're going to taste even better. I can't wait for y'all to see this next part. Hang on.
All right, y'all can see I snuck a few steaks in here, but go ahead and open them up and dry them off as good as you can. Use paper towels and get them bone dry if you can, y'all. Next step, we're going outside. We're using the Pro 90X Camp Chef. Today I usually have a flat top on it, but the cast iron is going to work great for our purposes now. And I got some tongs, my basting spoon, some avocado oil, some butter, some garlic, and some rosemary. You can also use thyme. Now here comes the whole pack of dogs, and they're as excited as me because they know what time it is. It's time to start cooking these steaks, y'all. Now what we're trying to do is get this pan hot, and I mean smoking hot. Don't be afraid of the temperature. Bring it up slowly, but don't be afraid to crank it, whether it's inside or outside. If you're inside, open up some windows and turn on the fan. Well, it's time for a break. All right, I'm back from my break. It's almost 600 degrees at the pan, and you can give it a little test by putting a little water on it and watching it dance. That's an effect, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the word right now. I'll put it in the bottom of the screen. But yeah, man, that's always fun to watch. If you want to test to see if your pan's ready, watch for that. When you are ready, put some avocado oil in here or coconut oil. Or you want to use something with a high smoke point, and that means that it won't burn at a high temperature. We want the high temperature because we're about to put an amazing crust on this steak. So the hotter you can get it, the better. Here we go. Now when that steak hits that pan and you hear that sound, that's what you're looking for, that sizzle. If you don't hear that sound, take the steak back out. You put it in there too early and you need to heat up the pan some more. Now at this point, just try to get the steak on down in there and leave it be. We're going to leave it in the pan as is for about 60 seconds. Ooh, it's looking good. After about 60 seconds, just flip it over. It should look something like this. Oh man. Man, that looks good. Tap it down, make sure it's got good contact with the pan. But again, 60 seconds on this side, just like the first side. You want to go ahead and have your butter and your garlic and whatever herb you're using. I'm using rosemary. Go ahead and turn off your stove and move the pan off the heat. It's hot enough. It's hot as fire right now, and I don't want to burn the butter. So go ahead and flip the steak over again, and oh yes, I'd say that's looking pretty damn nice. Go ahead and put the butter in the pan and put a big old lump of it in there. Don't be afraid of the butter. You're not eating it all. Don't worry about that. Put your herbs in, your rosemary and your garlic, and then just start the basting, y'all. Now, would you look at that? Now it's important that we not let the butter burn. If the butter turns black, you've gone a little bit too far. You want to keep all of that brown and looking super nice. All right, this steak is ready to come off, y'all. Take a look at that. Now, there ain't a whole lot to say now. One of the advantages of sous vide is that you don't have to let the steak rest. Normally, when I'm grilling or cooking steak in another method, you really need to let the meat rest. But one of the advantages, like I said, of sous vide is you don't got to. Look how juicy this steak is, y'all. Just look. Would you look at this steak, y'all? It is done to a perfect medium rare. And I want you to look at something else. You notice how at the top and the bottom of this steak, there's not a big area of gray. And that's because it wasn't overcooked, y'all. The steak was actually already cooked. We just put the sear on it. So all of the steak, almost the entire steak, is medium rare, the perfect temperature for me. And of course, with sous vide, you can cook it however you want. Let's bring this thing inside and let my friends take a taste test.
Alright. That thing good, man. We can taste that garlic butter and that butter that you be having on there. So it got me spitting. It's juicy. It's good. Tender.
All right.
That is so tender. I didn't have to chew it. Just throw it back like a duck.
I love that. All right, y'all, I've been out there cooking steaks, and now it's time to come in and give it a taste test. My friends say it's pretty good. Y'all, that's the best steak I've ever had. Y'all, get in your kitchens, get outdoors, get to cooking, entertain your friends, and have some fun, y'all. You're watching The Big Bite with Wainwright. That's steak sous vide style in a cast iron skillet. We'll see you next time. That's gotta be it, right?
That's a wrap.